Welcome in. Another week down. Another just random smorgasbord of junk that happened that is frustrating to everybody. Biggest surprise for me is Jeremy McNichols showing up and just stealing all my fantasy points.
Terrible.
As always, here with Mike. Mike, what is your biggest complaint from the weekend? Because that's mine. I should have had probably 40 points from Brian Robinson, but instead I'm stuck with 18.
Yeah. Oh, man. Jets offense, Bijan Robinson getting 11 touches, ETN being faded out seemingly, and Justice Hill, Chuba Hubbard, Jeremy McNichols, and DeAndre Swift are all in the top 10 this week. And Jordan Mason. I mean, if I told you this before the season, like you'd be like, what? What are you talking about? But yeah, it's a wild one. It's a wild one. I can't believe we're already 4 weeks down, though. We're getting already about a third of the way done with the fantasy regular season,
Yeah, it's crazy. So, and you brought up another person who's driving me nuts. DeAndre Swift. Like,
you're going to start him next week.
The first 3 weeks.
He's going to fail you. Everyone's going to start him next week, and he's going to fail you. I guarantee it. That's like my guarantee. The absolute guarantee.
Just nothing but tears coming.
I like it. That Rams run defense sucks.
Yeah.
It is not good. Like they get it. They have a great pass rush, but when you have a great pass rush, all of your linemen are in the backfield. So if he gets past the line of scrimmage, it's a 20-yard gain. And basically that's happened to them all 4 weeks this season. So I really think it's just going up against the Rams. That's what did it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're starting to get an idea of matchups, which is good. Usually about 3-4 weeks you start to get that. But man, like there's always those players every year. You look at the end of the year, it's like, oh yeah, like Swift finished RB17, and then you look at like how many points that I actually capitalized from Swift. It's like whenever I started him, he sucked. Whenever I had him on the bench, he went off, and it's like, well, he didn't help me at all. There's always those players. Swift might be one of them.
Yeah, and it's just terrifying. But
I'm going to throw this one out too because it was from Thursday though.
Oh, okay.
This is just the first chance, but Neighbors is dealing with the concussion. You obviously don't love that, but currently on pace to break the all-time single season target record. So
not rookie,
all time.
Yeah,
since they started recording targets as an actual stat, and I think it was 92.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
It's insane.
That's gonna be crazy. And I mean, he has 10 days to recover, so more than likely he's starting this week.
Yeah, probably.
You would think so, but you never want to assume with concussions. It's always each individual case is different, so you never know.
Yeah,
I think Neighbors, before we get into it, teaches us a valuable lesson about guys like Garrett Wilson, Drake London. They're still kind of disappointing. I know they're producing, like Drake London's producing, but they're still a disappointment in terms of where you drafted them. We make the excuses for quarterback. There's some players that just like rise above that, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, like on another level. So it's a good lesson to, even if the quarterback's not great, the special ones can still rise above. So it's a good lesson learned there.
Again, not been kind of touching on it on all the other shows, but Garrett Wilson had just a really horrible matchup his first 4 weeks when it comes to the people he was going up against. And so he was really saved last week by the touchdown. Otherwise he was going to put up like a 6. He had 5 targets and like 25 yards or something. So
unfortunately it doesn't get easier. It's Vikings, Bills, Steelers, Patriots again. And so it's like,
I know, but he doesn't have that one guy that's going to be covering him, which I think is going to benefit. Like, it's not a Surtain, it's not a Gonzalez, it's not a Snead.
Yeah.
Like, it should be easier moving forward, as crazy as that sounds. But so if you get the opportunity, try and buy low this week because I'm betting moving forward he's going to have double digits pretty consistently.
For sure.
So, speaking of which, there are 4 teams on bye this week: Lions, Titans, Eagles, and Chargers. Thank God. Chargers need a reprieve here. Need the health back. The fact that we were even in the game, which is just glaring and amazing. So, with that in mind, that means you're down 4 quarterbacks, theoretically. More than likely, you're down 2 quarterbacks. Maybe. Really, just 1. Potentially.
But then you have, you got to add Mahomes to that list. No one's starting him. He's a bust.
Yeah, especially with Rashid now. So, any case, the quarterbacks you're looking at to stream or even just swap out. Sam Darnold, still 2 available, 49.3% rostered. Current QB4. Now, I understand people are probably going back away from him a little bit because he does play the Jets, but I'm not too worried about it because Darnold just is tearing everybody. Week 1, 15.6 fantasy points. Week 2, 20.9. Week 3, 23.2. And this past week, 21.5. Like, that is what we had expected from our quarterbacks in fantasy. You hit that 20 mark, you're set. That's what you're expecting. So the fact that he's been doing that he's still just chasing Baker Mayfield right now. He's just barely behind him, wanting to nip it on his heels, but it's going to happen.
Yep. No, good call for sure. Justin Fields, again, this is going to be the last week you can get him if you want him, at least until if he ever gets benched or, starts not playing well. But he threw for over 300 yards. He can run the ball. Like, the rushing floor is always going to be there. Like, we're learning how important that is. Even the best quarterback, some people argue in the history of the NFL is looking mediocre stats-wise, and especially for fantasy because he doesn't really run the ball, whereas Justin Fields and Jaden Daniels look amazing. So always like the rushing guys will always lead towards Justin Fields. Andy Dalton is still going to be a solid, start in deeper leagues where these guys, Darnold, Fields, probably in deeper, more, expert leagues that you guys may be in. Those guys are probably rostered, but and then Geno Smith, he's kind of like Stafford last year. If you remember Stafford, the first 6-7 weeks, it's like, wow, Stafford's playing pretty well, but the stats just don't reflect it because he wasn't getting touchdowns. And then Stafford had a stretch the last 5-6 weeks where he was actually throwing touchdowns. It was really good. Geno's kind of like that. It was like the touchdowns aren't really there, but he's playing well. And I think they will come eventually. So I still like Geno as like a streamer throughout these bye weeks.
And of course, Andy Dalton, like he's still, I know it wasn't a super week, but he still put up good numbers this week. Like, especially compared to, like you mentioned, Mahomes. Like, I think Mahomes was 10 or 12 fantasy points this week. But
yeah, it was not good. He hasn't had in 4-point per passing touchdown since week 8 of last year. Mahomes has had one game over 20 points.
Yeah.
That's like 75% of a season. So yeah, it's insane.
So a lot of great options out there at quarterback. And they're still available, clearly. Theoretically, as of now, I don't think they've kicked off yet. You can still get Geno Smith. If you drop one of your players, I mean, you had Jeff Wilson on your bench or Raheem Mostert. At this point, might as well just dump it and grab one of these players. Or if you're like me, I'm actually in a league where you're able to dump players that you didn't play and pick up options. So, like, I already picked up my defense for this week in Seattle. So that's always fun. So, any case, those are your streaming quarterbacks for the week. We'll move into running back. And I can't get away from it, man. Justice Hill showed why I like him so much this week when he caught 6 balls and put up 50 yards.
He's going to get a steroid check, like random drug test. Like, is this really Justice Hill? Like the Justice Hill that I know of? I think I mentioned like in our 32 for 32. It's like, yeah, we know what Justice Hill is. He's just, nope, I was wrong. The guy looks amazing. So, yeah.
Well, when you're behind Henry, all you have to do, if you're catching the passes, that's like the beauty of it. The only issue again is that Henry's coming in to steal that touchdown every time or break off what seemed like the longest run of the day and hit a top speed that marks just Xavier Worthy. I mean, he was so close and looked like he was cruising to the end zone as the Bills players tried to get to him. So, yeah. It's interesting.
And people are worried about like, oh, he's only a matchup guy. Well, we've seen him be well in games they're trailing and games they're dominating. So he might not be a matchup guy. He might be very, hit or miss. Like, you need that one touchdown or you need that big play. But, bye weeks, it's tough sometimes. So, yeah, not a bad option.
And then the guy that, I thought he looked good. There are clear issues because he was playing the Chargers. But Kareem Hunt, 28.2% rostered. It was his first week really back and playing NFL football. I mean, it seemed like he pretty much got the start after Steele went down and didn't let go of it. It was a pretty even split between him and P9. And then, like, what do you expect? I mean, I would just expect that to go up. The one thing I'm kind of nervous on is if CEH is set on track to come back this week and how that could affect that backfield. It just seems really messy overall. So just a name to put out there because, again, I think we touched on it last week, but Hunt definitely seemed to grab a hold of that and really just run away with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Trey Sermon with the JT injury, Jonathan Taylor's injury, high ankle sprain. He's a definite must add. I don't know if he's going to be, the main guy, but he's definitely going to get the early down work. I can, guarantee almost. And I think Tyler Goodson, you should get the goal line too. Yeah. I know. If Anthony Richardson's there, we'll see. But maybe they need to stop running him. Who knows? But Tyler Goodson's also there. They'll probably get him in there and passing downs and stuff. So, still think you need to add Trey Sermon, who's out there for everyone, for everyone's league. Rico Dowdle, just under that 45%, 50% range. He's the best running back in terms of in Dallas. But he's just not getting. What is it? 8.5 carries, 2.2 receptions per game. He's just not getting the touches, but he's clearly the best looking one there. His explosive run rate is the highest, his yards per attempt. It's not anything to write home about, but it's better than Zeke. So I hope they start to give him a little bit more, but he is just floating around that 45% snap share, unfortunately. So I would like to see him potentially get a little bit more. I still think I can justify holding on to him, and hopefully he gets a little bit more of a run. Tank Bigsby is getting more work. ETN had a shoulder injury or not, or I don't know. It's just another weird situation. And what was going on with that? It's he started the game and then didn't really play, and then he played in the second half, and that whole Jags offense is weird. And Doug Peterson could be getting fired. So I don't know. Tank Bigsby, someone I want to grab as well. And then Braylon Allen, Tyler Algier, a couple of handcuffs, although Braylon Allen might not be a handcuff. He might be a startable piece, especially in deeper leagues. So
something I was looking at, there are 3 backfield, 4 if you include Bigsby and Etienne, that are splitting 60-40 right now. Mm-hmm. That includes Braylon Allen. That also includes Emmanuel Wilson. That also includes Bucky Irving and then Chase Brown and Zach Moss. So,
and Algier almost had 40% this week at 38.
It's close.
Yeah.
Bringing in Mason Rudolph, I guess. Levis is in the tent.
Yeah. So, those guys could be potential. Oh my God, I'm super desperate. I need 7 points in a bye week. Maybe they can get you by, but I definitely like your 2 if you need a start next week, and Trey Sermon if you need a start for week 5.
I think Trey Sermon's your one that you're definitely looking at because didn't Taylor have a high ankle last year and took him 4 or 5 weeks of just him not looking normal?
Yeah.
So that would be the one that I'm most excited for if you really need somebody. But
I have one that's kind of not going to help a lot of people.
All right, Steve, let's hear it.
Nick Chubb is rostered in 77% of leagues. So if you're in one of those 23% of leagues that doesn't have him rostered, he's expected to start practicing on Wednesday, open up that 21-day window of when he can come back. So if you are the Jerome Ford manager, your time is running out to kind of unload that for whatever you can. And if you are like me and waiting on Nick Chubb in several leagues, the end is almost near.
Yep. Good call.
What about Jonathan Brooks? I'm assuming that's still probably highly rostered, but again, a name to throw out.
It's another one where potentially he could start practicing this week, but we have not heard any updates from the Panthers yet. They did officially announce the Browns update, but not anything about Brooks yet.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing about the Browns, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but they changed Cooper's contract around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could be traded.
If that's the case, I think the Chiefs might be calling relatively soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up in the wide receiver one, but that's somebody I would be targeting because he's getting the targets, he's getting looks in Cleveland. But if he becomes the wide receiver one for Mahomes in Kansas City, that's very intriguing.
Yeah. Jalen Wright as well, because Jeff Wilson just went down before the game with a knee injury or something. So if Mostert's going to miss more time, and Wilson's out, right, they're going to use 2 running backs, and
we've seen A-Chain go down several times. Like he's no stranger to the injury report. So
yeah, he's like a league winner if Tua gets back and the offense gets back to looking like Miami. So, and guys get hurt, of course.
Yeah. All right. At a running back, into wide receiver, I got really excited, and then Anthony Richardson looks like he's probably going to be playing again. I know he's seemingly not figured it out yet, but Colts would just go to Joe Flacco and let Anthony Richardson figure it out for fantasy. I would love all the receivers in Indianapolis so much more. But with that in mind, Josh Downs, 14.4% rostered. Sorry, I was going to think. First week back last week. This week comes back to dang near 50-50 split with Pittman on target share. Current wide receiver 8 on the week. And in 2 games, already wide receiver 64 on the year. So he's creeping up there from not having any touches in the first 2 weeks to becoming something viable. And like it'll be very interesting to see how, if the Colts actually want to win, or if they're going to just continue to give that to Richardson. I think Flacco would really unlock this whole offense a lot more.
Yeah, I agree. In Richardson's defense, he was looking better. The little time, the 20% of snaps, he played a couple of nice, Michael Pittman, everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's so much better with Flacco. And probably, but also like over half of Pittman's yards yesterday came from Anthony Richardson. So, but yeah, I agree. I think if Flacco's out there, either way, you need to pick him up because, him and Richardson had a little bit of a connection, the small sample size beginning of last year as well, Downs and Richardson.
Yeah, and it kind of just really craters Pierce because you saw Pittman was the one who got the 2 big targets from Richardson when he was out there. So, like, I think he had the 1 for 32 with Richardson. So, but speaking of injury, Christian Watson being out gives an opportunity to Dontavian Wicks, 11.8% rostered. He stepped in almost immediately and took over that role. He's seeing more target than Dobbs, but Dobbs is still out there a lot more, which is very curious to me. I don't understand. Jordan Love being back definitely helps. And if Watson's going to be out, Wicks just seems to step right in and offer a lot more than I think Watson does. But be interesting to see how they works out. I know he had a couple big drops, but still widely available and can be an easy asset for you, especially if the Packers have to chase points because their defense is horrible.
Drops is an overrated stat. You can't get a drop if you're not getting targeted. So, you look at who leads the league in drops every year. It's the guys who have the most targets, So one thing about Wicks, and I don't think a lot of people will realize this, is Jaden Reed only plays on like 3 wide receiver sets. It doesn't seem like that because he's their best producing guy. Generally, you need your wide receiver, fantasy relevant wide receiver to be out there in 2 wide receiver sets. Jaden Reed's a little bit of an exception, and they're running more 3 wide receiver sets because they're all really good. But it's going to be Wicks and Dobbs out there. That's what happened when Watson got hurt. So it's going to be Wicks and Dobbs. Those 2 are going to play the most snaps, run the most routes, and then Reed will be third. I'm not saying he's third for fantasy, but in terms of just like routes run and snap percent, it just gives Wicks a little bit more opportunity. So I like that for sure.
Yeah, I'm just frustrated by the fact that Romeo Dobbs isn't something more significant right now because he caught more balls than Wicks, and it's just like, why aren't you targeting this man more? He's such a good player.
Yeah,
send him to Kansas City, please.
Yeah, right. Send everyone to Kansas City.
I just want fantasy points. Let's go.
Yeah, I have first one here. Somehow the wide receiver 20 on the year is not rostered. He's rostered in less than 20% of leagues. and even before last week, he was actually still like top 36. I think it was like him and one other player were like the only wide receivers in the top 36 that were like under 25% rostered. Wando Robinson, his upside is going to be limited. He's going to potentially catch just a bunch of passes. PPR leagues, he's gold. I think, I'm not saying he's going to catch 11 passes every week, but he's going to have 6 or 7 almost every week. Neighbors being out there opens things up for him, and it's basically Neighbors and Wandale, and kind of how it should be for that offense. So he's going to be a solid, help you win your league in terms, or like get by during a bye week type of player. So
10 points every week. That's kind of what he does.
Yeah.
It's not going to be pretty, but it'll happen.
Yeah, for sure. Tutu Atwell, it seems like he is the wide receiver one for the Rams, and Cooper Kupp is going to be out a couple, 2 more weeks. Puka is still another month, so you can have Tutu as the guy. Him and Jordan Whittington, I think, are the two. Like if Tutu's taken, which he's under 7% roster, so it doesn't seem like it, but Jordan Whittington, I think, caught for like 6 for 60. Those 2 guys could be like the top 2 guys. So don't mind stashing them and just kind of seeing how it goes. Xavier Legette, rookie. We always talk about rookies. Give them 3, 4, 5 weeks. They start to come on. Legette, he looked really good. And Andy Dalton is going to be, at least hopefully for the next week. I know they're going week to week. Is he the starter? Should be the starter. 6 for 66 and a touchdown for Legette. Adam Thielen was put on the IR. Was he put on IR? Thielen?
I don't think it was official. But
okay, well,
they did say he was eligible for it, and I'm like, then you should just put him there. But
yeah,
oh well,
yeah. So they did place him.
He was placed on IR. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're going to get at least 3 more weeks of Legette out there a lot, and so really like him. And then, Alan Lazard, it's like you just got to kind of believe it, right? He might have been the other guy I was talking about, like one of the receivers. I guess he's 40% rostered. He's wide receiver 16. He's had 3 good weeks and 1 bad week. Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers don't seem to be on the same page necessarily, where we thought it was like, oh, this is Devontae Adams. He likes Lazard, obviously feels comfortable throwing him the ball. Even in a terrible week for the Jets offensively, Lazard still put up 10 points. So at some point we just got to believe it, right? Like we can't just ignore this guy who's wide receiver 16 on the year. Like we got to, buy into it. But he might be one of those players. As soon as you start him, he gives you a goose egg. So,
all right, yeah, I really of those, I'm definitely liking Wandale and I like Legette. I think those will be more consistent producers, week in and week out. Especially Legette until Thielen comes back. So. All really good options, especially with a bye week.
I got a couple long shot ones for you if you're interested.
All right, sure. Let's hear it.
Jalen Polk,
rookie
for the Patriots, led the team with 7 targets this week. He actually led all Patriots wide receivers in snaps, routes run, and targets. So it seems like he has carved himself out a role. Who knows what that actually means in that Patriot offense, but volume is king, right? So
Drake May's coming, in my opinion, and look what Jaden Daniels is doing. It has to be, right? Like, come on.
Has to be. Got to see what you have.
Yeah.
But he caught 3 of the targets for 30 yards. As long as he's the established number 1, you have to at least stash him on your bench for later in the season. I don't think he's an immediate start, but he's a deep play. And then if you want to go super deep, super desperate, swinging for the fences, shooting for the moon, the ghost of Juju Smith-Schuster, the last man standing in Kansas City, the most familiar guy with the playbook, with Mahomes. Does he actually work himself into a role for at least a few weeks to get an opportunity to try to earn some playing time back? He very quietly re-signed with them after the preseason because nobody else in the league wants him. Kind of feel like they could reach out and get Kadarius Toney back, but we know how terrible that is. So,
well, didn't they quietly sign Mecole again too? Isn't Hardman still? I thought I saw him out there, but I'm not 100% sure.
I don't remember if he's still there or not. They like to get rid of guys and then bring them back for no reason and then never use them, like practice squad guys. But But yeah, I mean, Smith-Schuster, again, you're shooting for the moon as a Kansas City wide receiver, really taking a shot. I would bid literally $0 on it in Fab, just try to get him for free if I have an open roster spot or somebody that I don't mind losing, but it might be worth a shot until they do something.
He's going to fill
he's going to do something.
Rashee Rice's role. I'm not saying he's going to produce like Rashee Rice, but he's going to be the one to fill that position.
Yeah.
So
especially now that we're into the bye weeks, you're going to need somebody. And if he has a consistent 8 to 10 points a week, then it's worth looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be Kelsey, the one who's going to get the most.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Rice being gone.
Yeah.
So, well, since we touched on it, we'll move into tight ends where you come back Wednesday, we will be spinning a wheel.
You're damn right we will.
Might as well. Seems just as lucky at this point. But because the one I'm going to tell you, again, because Watson's out, Tucker Kraft, 4.3% rostered, current tight end 11, because this week he scored 17.3 fantasy points. That's why.
Yeah.
He's tight end 11 on the year because he scored 17.3 fantasy points this week. So, good luck. If the Packers have to score, which they more than likely are going to have to because of the fact that their defense just looks horrible. Here's my dart throw for the week.
Yeah, it really is a dart throw. We don't even have to spend too much time. Taysom Hill, I know he got hurt. I'm willing to hold on to him just considering the state of the tight end. Maybe if I have the roster spot, because he got 2 touchdowns. He didn't catch a pass, but he had 6 carries for 24 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that offense was so much better when Taysom Hill was out there. And then he got hurt, and it just everything went downhill. Yeah, so I'm willing to hold him and for the upside. Tyler Conklin, I still think is one of those. I know he had a down week. Everyone had a down week for the Jets in that monsoon. Still earned 8 targets. So that's back-to-back weeks, 6 and 8 targets. And I think should get you that 4 for 40 or 50 yards more often than not this year. So those are the 2. But it's more fun to spin the wheel, and you'll probably be just as right. So
here's a fun wheel spin for you.
Oh gosh.
Here's a fact. Can you tell me who the tight end is who has run the most routes in the NFL over the last 2 seasons?
I know a guy like Cole Kmet who was he had the highest snap percentage or snaps the last couple of years, 95% or something crazy.
Past 2 seasons.
I'll just say Cole Kmet just because I know he's out there all the time.
You want to throw out a random one?
Yeah. Let's go with trying to think of who switched teams that could be interesting.
They haven't switched teams, if that helps you.
They stayed on the same team?
Yep.
Darn it.
He's run 702 routes over the last 2 years, which is 65 more than any other tight end.
George Kittle.
The correct answer is Cade Otton.
Oh, baby.
Currently rostered in 6.2% of ESPN leagues.
Jeez.
He had 8 targets last week, caught 7 of them for 47 yards. He had 9 targets this week, 6 for 52.
Yeah, it also helps that their wide receivers 3 keeps getting knocked out.
Yep.
Palmer had a concussion and it bumped him up. So
he's playing with the best quarterback in the NFL, Baker Mayfield.
Exactly.
So
well, I don't know, Sam Darnold, and then maybe Baker number 2.
There we go.
Yeah, that's right.
Like we all had it, just like we all had it.
That was the plan.
But there you go. I mean, in a world where only touchdown receptions matter, he's got 9.7 last week and 11.2 this week, just on catches. So he's been consistent.
Yeah.
As consistent as you can be at the tight end position, whatever that means.
Which, if you missed the window, you should have got Kelsey. Because with Rice out, you're going to have the tight end.
He goes back to being tight end 1 and then everybody else behind him. That's kind of how it works.
Okay. On that note, what are you doing with the Ravens tight end? Are we fine dropping it, or are you holding on to one, or
I'm still starting. Again, because if Mark Andrews gives me 0, the difference between me and my opponent is like 5 points. It's not even that drastic. I'm just going to continue to start Mark Andrews. Like, I know it's frustrating, but I'm just going to do it. Like, I don't know. I have to imagine they get going eventually.
Well, him and Likely are just doing such a good job blocking that that's the issue. They need to go Gesicki and like let a couple guys come past them, have that opportunity maybe.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, for this one too, it was also game script. Like they were up big early, and then they just ran the clock with Derrick Henry because you have Derrick Henry now, so you just can run the clock. Like their run game used to be throw a 5-yard check down to Mark Andrews, and his targets and volume would be there. But now they actually run the ball, so that's really cut into them.
Yeah, nobody saw that one coming. Not this steep of a drop off. I mean, he had one target.
Not this crazy. No. At least one target would be great. Something, anything.
He saw one target, but he dropped it.
There you go.
I think Likely saw 3, which is, I mean, talk
about
that.
How many passes did Lamar throw? Like 15 or something? It was something crazy.
It wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last two wasn't great. Justice Hill was like the only one who did anything.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry had like 3 catches.
There you go.
Yeah, 1 for a touchdown too, which is annoying.
Yeah.
Justice Hill though led all wide receivers in receptions and catches, or receptions and yards. Sorry.
Crazy.
All right.
Craziness.
Out of the nonsense into more nonsense. We're streaming defenses. And my favorite this week, I kind of led off with it, are playing tonight. Seattle Seahawks, 31% rostered. They've really haven't been horrible. Ahead of tonight's games, they were the 14th best defense on the year in fantasy points. They averaged 9 fantasy points a game. And I'm not too worried about it. I really think that they should be set up again to have another good night, and moving, I mean, into next week, I think they're another good option for you. And then a defense that has continued to be very stout, Denver Broncos, 10.7% rostered. They faced the Raiders. With Adams likely week to week, they're hoping plays, but it was the same kind of nonsense that continues to happen. But Raiders have not done really anything against good defenses. So a lot of opportunity there, and Broncos have continued to keep it a low-scoring game. So a lot of, like I said, it just seems like it's a safe play if you're looking for it. So
yeah, no, for sure. I listed just some. I don't know if I always forget the roster percentages, but Vikings against the Jets, Vikings and Bears. I think they're just good defenses. So Vikings against the Jets. I'm not afraid of the Jets and their offense necessarily. Bears against the Panthers. I know their offense is better, but still, I just think those defenses are pretty good to where they can give you a solid game. Patriots against the Dolphins, another team that I think has above average defense, and currently the Dolphins are being shut out, by the Titans with 9 minutes left in the second quarter. So we just know that the Dolphins aren't going to be the same until Tua gets back. And then the opposite side of your Broncos is the Raiders. Raiders, I think, another solid defense, especially if Max Crosby is back playing the Broncos, and not too worried about their offense. So,
yeah, man, it's just weird. The defenses are always tough, because it's, again, really hit or miss. I'm always surprised at what teams like and don't like, and so
yeah,
but
for sure,
decent options. I mean, Patriots have looked really good. Dolphins are really struggling without Tua, which with all the talent that they have and speed they have, it's amazing. I thought Huntley might give a better option, but we'll see. And then Vikings have just looked really good on defense, which, talk about a year to change. I thought they looked rough last year, but this year they look completely fine.
Yeah. What do you think Sam Darnold's MVP odds are right now?
I mean, he might be taking it. Can he be a comeback player of the year? Does that work for him?
And MVP?
Yeah. Just nail them both, double up.
He's currently tied for 7th with Burrow and Purdy plus 2,500. He must have been plus whatever can be the highest possible, So, yeah, it's amazing.
Bears are 49.2% rostered. Patriots are 2.6, so that's widely available. And then Raiders are 35%. So only one you couldn't do is the Vikings, who are just over 50, like 59.8.
Okay.
We got right around 2%, maybe just a little under 2%. The Washington Commanders playing Cleveland this week, who allow the 3rd most points to fantasy defenses on the season so far. So
yeah, I just think although they did,
the Commanders in general aren't good, but they haven't taken a negative since week 1. So they took a negative to Tampa Bay, but they had 4 points against the Giants, 1 against Cincinnati, and then 7 points this week on the road against Arizona. So they get a home game against Cleveland. They've been playing all right on defense. Not great, but okay. Decent. If you're desperate, like I said, widely available. So
their offense is putting in points.
Yeah. It's a deep dive pick.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps us up. Let's go watch some football. Hopefully, you guys will be back Wednesday with good news on a litany of players and all their issues. But more importantly, we're going to have fun spinning a wheel, trying to decipher what tight end you should play, because I have no idea. And I don't think anybody else does right now either. So
nobody does.
All right. Any case, let's go watch some football. Hope everybody has a good week 5. And as always, remember to keep up the nonsense.